Developing students' metacognitive skills is a lifelong journey and adventure. While the work you do will help students experience immediate benefits in their academic performance, your work will have more enduring impact. The metacognitive work you do will improve students' information processing abilities, enhance their core thinking skills, and develop vital conceptualization skills. This package of skills is projected to be immensely valuable through at least the year 2030. The metacognitive skill set you and your peers gain will help you thrive in future scholarship endeavors and in your professional and personal lives. But no need to think about the long game at this point. For now, let's focus on a few tasks you want to help students complete during your first Peer Learning Strategist session. Task number 1. Help students cognitively contextualize the course. Students need to know the overarching modes of thinking that are valued in a course. When students possess the foreknowledge of how they must think about the material in a course, they can deliberately plan their thinking. For example, a student studying derivatives and chain rule in a Calculus 1 course would be better equipped if he knew in advance that the professor will test the class's knowledge with problems that require them to analyze the relationships between derivatives and chain rule. And here's why having this knowledge is so important. If solving problems require students to retrieve and plug in information such as formulas and concepts they've stored in their memory, then students can use the pattern of interaction in row 1, the remembering level of thinking. This level would be sufficient for solving the problems. However, if the skills needed to solve the problems require students to transfer information to different sets of problems, then they must interact with the material on the applying level of the diagram, which is row 3. If they have only used their remembering skills during studying, then they will find the test problems very difficult to answer, regardless of how much they've studied. And then in a third context, if the skills needed to solve the test problems require students to analyze the context of the problems and then decide which formulas or concepts are applicable given the scenario, then they would have needed to match this way of thinking while they were studying. Analyzing this content requires students to do a different type of mental work during preparation. Using this foreknowledge, the student could ensure that he activated the correct modes of thinking during studying, which would have ensured a successful test experience. This is why you must be able to recognize in real time the thinking skills students are using and then help them adjust their thinking as needed. The good news is that the Think Well, Learn Well diagram and the outcome decoder chart are perfect tools to decipher how students should be thinking about the content they are learning. With your Think Well, Learn Well diagram and outcome decoder tool visible, your first task is to help students cognitively contextualize the content. This simply means that you want to ensure students are using the correct modes of thinking to learn the content. And to accomplish this task, you can follow this simple process. Step 1, decode the course outcomes. Use the verbs in the course learning outcomes to figure out how students need to think about the content. This is assignment A in the ABCs of academic work documents in the online course. Print this document out and use it as you work with students. You'll know they are getting it when they can do 3 critical tasks. Number 1, match the verbs in their syllabus with the rows on the Think Well, Learn Well diagram. Number 2, and this is a bit more advanced, when students can see the relationships between the content they have in their notes and the respective learning outcomes. And number 3, when they get that coveted aha moment as they see the work they must do to convert the content in their notes into the outcomes of the course. You can take a bow as you have just helped them cognitively contextualize the course as evidenced by their new metacognitive ability to decode their course outcomes.
the session was really engaging because we started off with appealing to what we're most scared for and what we're most excited about in the exam, and it kind of showed me what they already know and what they don't, because they would be excited about content they know versus they're scared for what they don't have. So the next step was then I took what they did know and I just briefly reviewed to make sure that we didn't have anything like mixed up or whatever, because some of the words were very similar. And then I took that and I related it to the concepts they don't know. So like for theme, it's very similar to a motif.
What thinking skill was she working on?
Application and analysis, I think, with understanding too.
Do you have an idea of the modes of thinking that the student you worked with would need to know?
Yeah, because I looked at previous exam questions and stuff, so I kind of looked at the verbs that they were using within the sentence questions.
What level of thinking was it?
There were some analyzing and evaluating, and there is a lot of applying.
Okay, great, super. And you'll be surprised just by visually helping the student connect where he or she is currently thinking and where he or she needs to think. That visual creates a sort of marker in students' minds where they can say, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because in class, my professor is asking this, or it seems like on the homework he or she is asking this.
So, and he came in for like a theology, and he didn't really understand like some of the concepts because he hadn't been like exposed to them before.
What level would you say he was struggling with initially?
He was just trying to like kind of remember the terms without having any context behind them. He really understood what it was after that.
Well, I had a student last year where we were working on chemistry, and they kind of came in a little late into the semester, and so he was already far enough behind where he thought there was no hope, and it was kind of hard to get over that hump at first. He ended up passing the semester, and he did way better the second semester, so that was good.
In the past, we'd mainly just focus on, okay, here's our assignments. I'll help you kind of understand some of the concepts to get to the answer, but that's usually what we focus on, was just homework instead of like the class and furthering our knowledge as a whole.
I think something that has been standing out, not just in this class, but in my methods classes, is that if the students aren't doing most of the legwork, then the learning's not happening. So you're the guide on the side.
Remember, if students think well, they will learn well and perform well in school, work, and in life.